Chapter 785, Immortal Vampire Secrets. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. Having evolved into four-spirit treasured body, Zhang Yuochen now possessed a healing ability. Although less powerful than innate extreme yang body and immortal saint body, its recovery rate was faster than the others. At this point, the wound on his leg was already healed and formed into a scar. He stood up slowly and turned towards Saint Xuanyi. He said, "The human disguise of an immortal vampire is almost impeccable. Almost. It has its flaws too. Since everyone is eager to know, I shall discuss this. First, there are wings on their backs. Even in their human form, their bone structures are very different from humans. Second, the human shell takes its form mainly from blood. That immortal vampire managed to deceive all the saints from his disguise as half Saint Xuanlong by draining him completely, feeding on his body essence. It is hardly noticeable, no matter how deep your cultivation is. However, it was difficult to control the blood flow in his body on the battlefield, which gave off the scent of an immortal vampire, revealing his disguise. What Zhang Yuochen pointed out was very important. Everyone present had taken down a reference in their mind. They would be prepared if they ever came across an immortal vampire again. Saint Xuanyi grinned and asked, "Lin Yue, how do you know so much about immortal vampire?" Zhang Yuochen answered with a smile. "I don't. I came across an ancient book coincidentally. The 2 points that I mentioned are what I read from the book. 800 years ago, the victory war that expelled the immortal vampires to Manji Island led by Emperor Ming actually came at a high price. After the war, Emperor Ming gave out a royal decree ordering Shangguan Ke and those involved in the war to document all things about immortal vampires. It is called Immortal Vampire Secrets, documenting everything about their weaknesses and ways to fight against them, as well as secrets no one knows about. 800 years have gone by and there is no sight of immortal vampires in Kunlun's field. People have forgotten about this ancient book, hence why none of you have read it before." When Shangguan Ke had been documenting it, Zhang Yuochen got to read a few of the pages. The 2 points were on those pages. He had no idea what the rest of the book said. Yet his speech made everyone there remember the name of the book and inspired them to read it carefully once they returned to their respective sects. Should the immortal vampires come back 800 years after the defeat, the realm would be in danger again. Understanding the immortal vampires would make everyone more prepared to fight against the vampires if they ever made a comeback. Little did Zhang Yuochen know that the book had not been distributed to all the sects after its completion, because the plot against Sacred Central Empire occurred. Emperor Ming went missing and his son, the Crown Prince, was assassinated. Everything changed within a single night. Since then, the book had gotten lost and no one had ever seen it. One could imagine the suspicious thoughts about Lin Yue's identity that would arise when they discovered that this book does not exist. There, Shangguan Linglong and Shangguan Nihong from Shangguan family were the most confused. "Our ancestor edited Immortal Vampire Secrets?" Shangguan Linglong frowned, looking puzzled. Shangguan Nihong did the same. She pursed her lips and turned towards Lin Yue, looking ashamed. As the descendant of Shangguan Ke, she felt shameful for not knowing better of what her ancestor did, compared to an outsider. Saint Lady laid her eyes on Lin Yue. The sparkle in her eyes showed that she was impressed. Not only did his talent in the mastery of sword exceeded many, but he was also well read. Saint Lady had read countless books, herself, and became a saint by means of reading. Even as a saint, she had to continue reading every now and then to gain more knowledge. The books she had come across varied in all fields, arts and sciences of ancient and modern times, even the study of humanity, you name it. Of all the books she'd read, she had never once seen the book Immortal Vampire Secrets. After the 2 duels, no one was doubtful of Lin Yue's capabilities anymore. Nailed Shaolin to death with a sword, slayed a half-saint with a mere strand of hair, such glorious victory. Who dare fight him? There was no doubt that Yin and Yang sect won the sword technique conference this time again. 100 years from now they would be the ruling sect of Sword Pavilion. Saint Lady crossed her arms. Dressed in a white scholar robe like any young gentleman, she stepped forward and looked at Zhang Yuochen. "As a bureaucrat, I am in no position to interfere in the dispute among the sects. I can ignore the personal animosity between Shaolin and Yin and Yang sect, but an heir has been killed. How should I bring this message to the queen? The nobility of an heir was indeed very high. When an heir was murdered, regardless of the reason, it would be considered as a serious offense and action would be taken by the imperial court. Fortunately, the 9 heirs had not met the queen yet. This meant their titles as heirs had yet to be confirmed. Otherwise, the murder of Shaolin would be considered as disrespectful to the queen, and the murderer and his entire family could be killed. Ningxu and Dowan Moonbury, a sword saint, could tell that Saint Lady did not want to find fault with Lin Yue. In fact, she was helping him to escape the offense and punishments. They understood her intention immediately. Saint Lady wanted Lin Yue to replace Shaolin and became the new heir. After getting to know her intention, the two saints looked at each other and smiled. If Lin Yue and Gai Danjiao both became the heirs, Yin and Yang sect would only grow stronger for the coming years. Not only would they be the leading sect in the eastern region, but the alpha of the realm. Thank you, my Saint Lady, for the fair judgment. Since Shaolin has fallen, may I suggest that the first king's seat in Kunlun Heir's banquet be promoted to become the new heir? Zhang Yuochen rejected with his fists cupped. Saint Lady had expected his rejection. She replied, "The 9 designates are not yet installed. I think the one who kills the designate earns the title." Lin Yue, you do have the capability. If you don't become one, I'd be quite disappointed. Tomorrow, I will bring the rest of the heirs back to Central City. This leaves you one more day to make the decision. Come to me anytime when you have made up your mind. Saint Lady looked at Zhang Yuochen again before leaving. When Zhang Yuochen was back to Yin and Yang sect's camp, Moonbury, a sword saint, asked, "Is your injury all right?" Zhang Yuochen smiled and shook his head. "I'm good. It's just that the injury on my veins may take a few days to recover." Moonbury, a sword saint, wanted to say something but hesitated. It seemed like he wanted to ask Zhang Yuochen why he had rejected Saint Lady's offer. But he did not ask in the end. He trusted that Lin Yue would know what was good for him and said, "Your contribution to our success this time is the greatest. When the conference ends, the sect will reward you with precious gifts. But for now, rest well." Zhang Yuochen went back to his seat and soon enough he was surrounded by the young sword warriors of Yin and Yang sect. He was received by their warm welcome like a hero. No matter what happened, Zhang Yuochen would never be the heir. So he didn't give this much thought. His gaze, however, was focused in the direction of the Eastern Region Saint Academy. Sword Saint Xuanji stepped forward in the public eye with slow and heavy footsteps. He looked at 9 Serenity Sword Saint and said, "9 Serenity, it is time to put our old grudges to an end today." 9 Serenity Sword Saint morphed to the opposite side of Xuanji Sword Saint. His gaze turned sharp and said, "We have been rivals for the whole of our lives. It is time to put this to an end. Since one of us will die today, I must clarify one thing. I did not kill your apprentice, Zhang Yuochen. There must be a catch to his death." Sword Saint Xuanji gradually opened his eyes. The deep wrinkles in his face were accentuated and creased as he went into deep thought. After the death of time and space descendant Zhang Yuochen, 9 Serenity had never said anything about it. Why would he clarify it to the public now? Obviously, his words caused an uproar among the crowds. If 9 Serenity Sword Saint was telling truth, the one who lied must have been Wan Zeoi. The one who killed Zhang Yuochen could be Wan Zeoi too. But why would he do that? Rather, why would the imperial court do that? Among the crowd, some thought of the other situation. If 9 Serenity had not killed Zhang Yuochen, and his body was never found, could it be that he had not died and was still alive? Everyone knew this was going to be a life-or-death battle between 9 Serenity and Xuanji Sword Saint. There was no reason for him to lie at this moment, when his death was uncertain. Saint Lady knew the imperial court never gave the order to take Zhang Yuochen's life. Furthermore, Wan Zeoi was blamed by the queen for this. Could it be an immortal vampire took the appearance of 9 Serenity Sword Saint and fooled Wan Zeoi? Saint Lady shook her head when she thought of it. The immortal vampire could have killed Zhang Yuochen without using any deception. Why would he have posed as a 9 Serenity Sword Saint? On top of that, none of the immortal vampires had consumed the blood of a 9 Serenity Sword Saint. Wan Zeoi would not have been fooled easily. There must be some unknown stories behind the truth of Zhang Yuochen's death. Saint Lady had a feeling that the time and space descendant, Zhang Yuochen was still alive, transformed into someone else and hiding at one corner of Kunlun's field. Of course, for her to make such a conclusion, she had to meet Wan Zeoyi personally when she went back to the city, in order to understand the situation that day in detail. If the time and space descendant, Zhang Yuochen, was still alive, where would he go? Everyone thought the same thing as Saint Lady.